Cornhusker Connection. I'm Brandon Shanahan, joined by Tyler Sprinkle. Here we got our first in-person show. This is the first time we've gotten to do this in person. How's it going, Tyler?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, man.
Good.
Good to be here. Unfortunately, I'm in town was here for the Michigan game, which of course didn't go very well. But you were there too, so you got to experience it as well.
Yeah. I'd like to say it was a good time. I mean, the buzz around the stadium was really fun. Having those other big companies out there doing their shows, it was a cool atmosphere to be in. Unfortunately, the game didn't carry that same excitement. Down 14-0 really fast, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But it was fun to be there. A little hotter than I thought it was going to be. Got some sun.
I got toasted pretty much too. I rolled up my sleeve, so I just got the perfect little oval right on the side of my arms. It's a tough look, but yeah, I mean it's such a magical place that it's hard to like chalk up any day down there as a loss or like a bummer. Because I still would have rather been there and seen them get their ass kicked than almost anywhere else in the world.
Yes.
So there's the balance there. It was a weird energy because there's obviously a lot of expectation as far as, well, this is the number 2 team in the country. They've been blown by everybody in the Big Ten for the last couple of years at this point, and now coming into Lincoln. But then there's like just this little sliver of like, but what if?
Yeah.
What if?
Yes, that was floating all throughout Lincoln on Saturday. Everybody was like, no way we win this game. But as you said, what if? What if?
And that was a whole selling point for me. Well, not much of a selling point needed to get to Memorial Stadium, but just like as far as like me getting amped for the game, it's like,
yeah,
what if? Like this is like a program changing win if we could pull this off. And now it did not go that way by any stretch of the imagination.
No, it was unfortunately, it looked like the game was over when it started. Michigan just drove the field right away. Then we get the ball. Harburg turns it over right away. Down 14-0 really fast. Can't really get anything going. We had a couple drives that we did something with. The 4th down turnover, that was tough to see. You like to see your quarterback stay on the ground there. Missed field goal. That sucks. Still got faith in Albano. I know there's no reason for me to. I just feel like he's going to be a quality kicker. Just needs to figure it out. But it was fun for a little bit.
Yeah, kind of coming into the game, I had like these bullet points. Nebraska does this, if they do this, then they might compete. One of those was the defense has to play great early. Well, that didn't work out very well. Now, granted, I'll also give the defense credit because I feel like they're going to get shit on all week. They weren't giving up huge plays. Like, it wasn't broken coverages. It wasn't just them getting bullied. It was like still 6-7 yards of carry when they wanted it, which isn't great. It's not a winning formula.
Yeah. But
they still had to earn those yards through the first drive. So I'll give them credit there. But you still got to get stops, create turnovers, which they didn't. And hats off to Michigan for being such a disciplined football team. No penalties throughout the entire game. No turnovers. Just real businessmen-like. And then you have special teams that needed Albano to get a couple of field goals, or at the very least, like give the threat and the confidence when you get down into that part of the territory. As far as, well, even if we have to settle for 3 points, it's still 3 points.
Yeah,
that didn't work out. And then the offense, no turnovers. Not like win the turnover battle. Not like these moral turnovers that I talk about with Harburg, where they're more takeaways than turnovers. Just nothing. And the second play of the game, it's a turnover.
Yeah,
a little wobbly stuff, but I mean, 0 for 3 as far as what I was looking for a good game, and just total opposite.
Yeah, and like you said, we do get some kind of comfort in not getting absolutely blown out on every play. No busted coverages, but there were down and distances where you're like, we got them here.
This
like
is the
3rd
spot.
and 14, and then they pick it up, and that was just so demoralizing. Nothing seemed to work. It didn't really seem like they wanted to be out there. But I mean, it was an uphill battle all day. I'm sure they knew it was coming. At least we got to see a Fleeks touchdown. That was really cool.
Shout out to Joshua Fleeks. He might be the best player of the game.
Yeah.
And he played for 4 minutes?
Yeah, it keeps the shutout streak going, or
how big
non-shutout streak. Yeah.
That's huge. I mean, if you want to talk about the moral victories that we can pick up here, they're few and far between. That's one of them. Is just not getting shut out.
Yeah.
Especially because I was talking some shit about Iowa getting shut out last week, and if they would have just turned right around, it was fuck.
Yeah.
But I think it would have been the first time since like 1968 they would have gotten shut out in Lincoln. Just crazy stuff, and we don't have too many more of those streaks. I mean,
we have two big ones.
Yeah.
That's all we care about here in Nebraska since we don't win much.
Yeah, that and the sellout streak, right? Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to really hang your hat on, but we still got them.
Yes,
still got them here. But
thankfully,
before we kind of dive into the game, also the first podcast that we've gotten on the air since the announcement of the $450 million renovations to Memorial Stadium. Some real big improvements, seat backs, really modernizing the stadium, making it a huge asset to the school and to the athletic department. It does come at a reduction of capacity of up to 20,000 seats as they're constructing, and then another few thousand like once it's even settled. I mean, it's tough to like chalk up like a decrease in capacity as a win, but with the changes, I mean, like Trev Albert said, this is the first step to maintaining Memorial Stadium for another 100 years.
Yeah, and the outside Memorial Stadium looks awesome. Like it's very classic. Like you recognize that stadium. If you're walking around that concourse, it is so bad. Like everybody's just on top of each other. Nothing really makes sense. The whole concourse isn't connected. The bathrooms are disgusting.
God forbid you enter in the wrong side of the stadium.
Yeah. Then you're stuck. You're stuck. You have to get standout to run around. Yeah. Losing I think it was about 10,000 all said and done. I think it's going to be a good thing because they're making the student section a lot more pronounced and known instead of just keep shoving them in the corner to get away from the field. So I think that's going to be good. They talked a lot about acoustics and stuff like that. So the stadium should be louder. I like it a lot. It needs some updates.
For sure. And also, and I mean, this isn't part of the stadium upgrades, but first of all, it's the only college football stadium I've been to in recent memory where they not only accept cash, but it seemed like they prefer it. Like there were places where I couldn't use a card and they had children selling runs. I forgot that was a thing.
Yeah, I got overcharged because they don't use cash registers. So the 14, 15, 16-year-old kid turns around, tries to count up from the menu that I got, and types in like a little thing and charge you.
I mean, like it's children. Like
it was supposed to be $18. I looked at the receipt; it's $28. Okay, but so yeah, there's some things that definitely need to be changed about that place.
But it was nice to kind of go back in time. You know, you have the Coliseum-esque feel to it. You have the bench seating. You have the child labor. But I am very excited. It seems like a very big quality over quantity kind of move where I feel like there's some stadiums, particularly in the Big Ten, that are like, we just want to squeeze as many people in space as possible. And that's great. And that provides a different atmosphere for sure. But like Trev said, this is going to be the thing that kind of sets the tone for Memorial Stadium going forward. And I think this is a huge win.
Yeah, I agree. Memorial Stadium definitely has that feel of just packing as many people as you can in there. One downside of this is certainly going to be the ticket prices. Those are for sure going to go up. I'm sure they're going to re-implement the raffle system. Everybody has to go back in the raffle every year to get season tickets.
Man, that'd be heartbreaking.
So a lot of people are going to be real pissed about this, but I do think this is like a necessary improvement.
Yeah, and season ticket holders is probably the biggest loser here, which feels shitty that the people who've been most loyal to the Husker football program kind of gets the short end of the stick here. But you're right. I mean, this stadium needs some upgrades to keep up with the times, and I think this not only gets us kind of caught up to where a lot of other stadiums are now, but future-proofs us quite a bit to where, you know, this is an improvement. Obviously, if you're spending $500 million on it, you hope it lasts for a little bit, but kind of future-proofs the environment there and keeps Memorial Stadium an elite atmosphere in college football.
Yeah, next is probably going to be that real grass field that a lot of the NFL players are talking about. Yeah, this is all good things. I mean, I know that a lot of people have a lot to say about this project. A lot of people are really pissed about it, but I don't see really any bad parts about it. Just making the stadium just better. What's wrong with that?
Well, yeah, what's wrong with that? It makes it more efficient, makes the concessions and everything better. So huge win there. So it'll make it even a little bit better, more comfortable environment to watch Nebraska lose 45-7 against teams like Michigan here. But first thing I kind of wanted to get into it is one that I think that we were on different sides of the aisle on, and that's quarterback play. I feel better about Henrik Harburg after that game than I did going into it, and I don't know if that's the case unanimously.
I don't even know why.
Because I think that where I feel worse, I'll start with that. I feel worse schematically is that he only got 9 carries, and it didn't seem like he was put in a position to succeed running the football. They ran a couple of options with him. I did see him pitch the ball once on a speed option. That was new. I forgot that you could do that with him. But it didn't seem like he was a big part of the game plan as far as running the football. And when those first couple of drives go in and it's not working with Anthony Grant coughs up the ball on a fumble. I kind of expected that. Now, granted, they were down several touchdowns at that point. So in theory, you got to think the easy logic is, well, we got to throw the football and catch up. And, that is what it is. But even when he did that, he's still not a great thrower, still not a great facilitator. But he was good enough, and he was still oddly efficient and gave his playmakers an opportunity to get the ball and make plays, and still fairly safe with the football once he got it past the line of scrimmage, which is driving me nuts. 6'5". I don't know why that's an issue here.
Yeah. So I disagree with you on everything that you just said to me. So yes, our plan was to run the ball. He's a good runner, can't throw the ball. When you're playing a team like Michigan and you go down early, you need a quarterback. You don't need a running back. The fact that you can't assist your team in making this comeback because you cannot throw the ball. If you want to run so bad, go to running back because we need help there. It didn't seem like we had a chance due to the fact that we got down so early, and I know he can't throw the ball. I mean, there were slant routes that he's throwing a yard and a half behind him. I mean, there's no timing there. It didn't seem like he had really any urgency to get the ball out sometimes. When you're playing those teams, you need a playmaker that's going to be able to throw the ball. You can't rely on the run, especially against the number 2 team in the nation where they are very good at stopping said run.
And you're not wrong there. Let me rephrase a little bit. I don't feel good about him as like a long-term fit. Sure. I don't think he's the future that we build around.
Yeah, and I think I understand. You're talking like the rest of this year.
Yeah, it's like
I understood that.
I've seen things from going into this game. I was thinking I haven't seen anything from him that I don't think I could see from Jeff Sims, and I think I got a little bit more of that because I still think he was efficient throwing the football. He still had almost 200 yards, 14 to 25, 8 yards in attempts. He did have that one pick that was bad at the line of scrimmage. So efficient to me, not explosive by any means. And yes, when you fall down,
not game changing. We need game changing in those kinds of games.
In those kinds of games, I'd also like to mention we're not going to have another game like this.
Right.
So I think going down the stretch, and the brightest timeline is Jeff Sims was available there, and he's healthy, and he can kind of make plays with his legs, and then hopefully take better care of the football than he has in the past. And then I could see that. But I think, especially for this week, I think Henrik Harburg should be QB1 regardless of who's healthy. And then
it's a short week. So
it is a short week. Yeah. But then you can sell me on, okay, we're going into the bye week. We can reevaluate things depending on how the Illinois game goes. But now that we've seen it against like a really, like not just like a good defense compared to the team that Nebraska played so far, but just a truly elite defense, he was still able to move the ball in some sense. Still able to take care of it. A little bit delayed on a lot of those plays, like those slant routes. It didn't seem like he was 3-step drop, hit your guy. But he didn't throw it into the chest of any defenders. He tried. He tried, but
they didn't catch it.
But I still feel like he gives us the flashbacks of the Jeff Sims interception in the end zone and the interception on the game-winning drive and fumbles against Colorado. It's just there's just a sense of security that I feel good with him. And I think there's also a sense that now he's gotten 3 starts, the rhythm's all with him. And if you were to bring Jeff back, I kind of feel like that's an unnecessary disruption within the offense that has a little bit of rhythm-ish compared to what I felt like we saw in Minnesota, or at least some type of cohesionness. Whether or not that's translated, I don't think so, but that's kind of where I'm at. And if the roles were reversed and Harburg started and he sprained his ankle and then Jeff Sims came by and did this, I feel like I'd be on the same boat here. But I mean, you kind of have to go with the hot hand here. And while it's not very warm, like a hot pocket that's been in the oven for 25 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
I think he's still kind of the guy that everyone's more comfortable with at this moment.
I see what you're saying. I disagree, and I'm probably on the. I probably have a bad opinion, or at least a lot of people think I have a bad opinion on this, but I don't want to watch this offense anymore. It's so boring. Grant was falling asleep during the LA Tech game. We were at the game. Yeah, it doesn't always have to be flashy to be good football. I don't believe that. But this is that's tough to watch sometimes. And maybe that's just because I want so badly to have just an electric offense to watch. This shit is boring. It's boring. And I just want to see what Jeff Sims has, because I know, like, just watching his past years, like, I know he has some electric shit that he can do. And I just want to see it. I want to be excited to see that kind of stuff again. I don't want to see this guy run the speed option, never pitch the ball. Yeah, he might take it 70 yards one time, which is exciting. But I want to see, like, I want that excitement on every play. Like, this might be the one. I don't know. That's how I'm feeling. Not saying that Jeff Sims definitely gives us a better chance to beat teams like Michigan, just because he has that raw talent that Harvard may not possess. But you're probably right that he might be the better option to go with against Illinois, and Michigan State, and Northwestern. But that's just how I feel.
Yeah, and moving forward, I mean, these next 4 games are really going to determine the fate of first year under Matt Rule. As far as expectations go, because, I mean, it feels not great to be sitting here 3-4, losing to Michigan. Well, I mean, that one we chalked up pretty well. But losing to Minnesota, losing to Colorado, and then just picking up wins against La Tech and Northern Illinois. But I mean, these are 4 winnable games. I mean, there's not going to be a game the rest of the way, unless things implode, where Nebraska is going to be more than a 10-point underdog. And that's generous to teams like Wisconsin and Iowa, who stink. But these 4 are probably the 4 most winnable games on the schedule. And then you pick up momentum to take into Camp Randall, and then Iowa comes to Lincoln a couple weeks after. And I mean, 6 wins is still very much on the table, and the thought of picking up 4 wins in a row is just, I mean, that seems unheard of at this stage of the game.
Yeah, that's all I want. I just want to go bowling so damn bad. I just want the players to have that feeling of, like, we finally accomplished something that we set out to do. Obviously, every team is like, well, let's go win the national championship. Unfortunately, that's not very easy for a lot of these teams in FBS, but I think just the building block of getting that 6-win season is going to do a lot for the program.
I think so too. And just kind of getting that bugaboo off our back, where I think we're the longest tenured team in the Power 5 without a bowl game. And whatever our streak is, I think it's the longest in Power 5, which is insane.
I don't even remember. I want to say it was the Georgia one, but I don't think that's right. I think there was one a year or 2 after that.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a different life.
It feels like a century ago.
And it's crazy that that's where the bar is, considering that we've fired now 2 coaches who have better winning percentages than Hayden Fry and Kirk Ferentz, real college football legends over there in Eastern Iowa. They got statues, and our guys got pink slips. Standards are different, I get that, but it just feels like a different world. And I would just like for that to kind of reset the bar, and just to kind of get that bug back in it. And it's a tough look losing that bad, but the schedule lightens up here, and I think we got some good opportunities here to kind of get back to playing teams that are more on our expected level.
So our last bowl game was in 2016. It was when looks like we beat Tennessee. Oh no, Tennessee beat us 38-24. Josh Dobbs.
What a name drop. Franchise quarterback there.
He ran for 3 touchdowns, 118 yards, and threw for 291 yards and another score. Tennessee beats number 24 Nebraska. 2016. That feels so damn long ago.
I mean, we were 1 year removed from high school.
Yeah.
That would have been Mike Riley's second year. Was it the 2016 season, or was the bowl game played in 2016? Had to have been
December 30th, 2016.
Oh, okay, so it was the 2016 season. So yeah, Mike Riley's. No, that was his first year. Yeah. Wow. Holy smokes. So
That's 3 coaches ago.
And early on in his tenure too.
Yeah.
It's like more like 2 3/4 of a coaching tenure.
That's just a testament to Bo Pelini, how great he was here.
I mean, it's crazy to think about, but I mean, he's still around. Maybe is he? Yeah. Actually, I want to get into myself. He would never come back to
No, I wouldn't if I were him either.
No shot. I mean, no shot. But nonetheless, lots of good stuff coming up here. Lots of hopefully good feelings coming up here starting Friday night with Illinois. Do you like the Friday night games?
I think I do. Matt Rule said something about this today in the press conference, where he doesn't like night games because they're just sitting there all day waiting to play. So he likes to just get the game out early, is what he said, I think. But I like the night games. I think it brings a lot more excitement. And I think the players really like playing in that atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, it goes both ways, though. I mean, both teams are feeling that way. But I do. And for good or for worse, it's going to be all eyes on this game. So hopefully we can maybe not look like shit. But
and it's such a football guy answer. I just want to get up and get playing football.
Yeah.
None of that. Don't care about the lights or the this or that. Like, just give me some football for breakfast.
Yeah,
that's all I'd like it a lot more if they were good.
Yes.
It feels like, and this is probably just every game, but it's magnified when it's like a standalone game, like a Friday night or Thursday night or week 0, and then just to throw out a stinker like Nebraska has against Minnesota and against Northwestern last year.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like every game play at this point. But
let's see who else is playing on Friday. Just to see what competition we have here.
And like during the Minnesota game, I was just hoping that Florida was going to get their doors knocked off. Like, I just don't want to be the laughing stock of college football to start the year again.
So it's Kansas State and Oklahoma State. That's it. So Nebraska, Illinois, Kansas State, Oklahoma State.
I mean, if Kansas State loses that one, that's a tough one to beat as far as laughing stocks.
And their game will get over earlier than ours. Well, presumably you'd expect at least.
Yeah,
they start at 6:30. So yeah, maybe nobody will even be paying attention if Nebraska gets blown out.
Well, lots of good stuff here. We have our updated Cornhusker Connection rankings here. We'll dive into here. So not a whole lot of changes. I know the only changes I made were towards the bottom. Like I swapped out USC and Oregon. I threw in Oklahoma in my top 10 for the first time this season. There's a couple of teams like Washington State were thrown in there. I think they're just playing hard-nosed football, and I think it's kind of getting overlooked. Certainly nothing will matter if they lose this week, but they've certainly caught my eye over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff on here. Looks like Brooks doing everything he can to keep Georgia in our top 10.
I mean, he's really working. We got some help from the AP poll here this week to help that out. But yeah, I mean, I just look okay. So let me just go down the list: Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Penn State, Oregon, Washington, USC, Oklahoma, Notre Dame. Okay, all 10 of those teams that I mentioned have not had close calls with unranked teams.
Correct.
Florida State's got 2 of them.
Back to back.
And yeah, they had that good win against LSU.
Which now looks
yeah,
way worse now that they lost to Ole Miss.
Yeah, depending on how Saturday goes in College Station between Alabama and Texas A&M, the LSU could be the 4th best team in that division.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's the SEC West. I
get
it.
Yeah, that's all they fucking say about the SEC. Oh, it's the SEC.
Yeah, absolutely. SEC defense giving up 1,300 yards in a game. I mean, the Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray offenses couldn't put up 700 yards every week like that. Outstanding stuff. But yeah, Florida State. I mean, they're hanging on. Fortunately for Brooke and his agenda, Florida State's shouldn't have any trouble the rest of the season. But that also kind of raises the expectations. Like if you have another stinker where you beat Virginia by 6 points, I mean that's a bad look. You kind of only have points to lose here at this point.
Yeah, I agree. They keep playing these close games. They might mess around and eventually lose one of these to a team that they should certainly be beating. But it looks like we're in agreement for most of the teams on here. I mean, besides Florida State and Oklahoma that you have on yours. And
the only other difference is I have Ohio State a little bit higher than everyone, quite a bit higher than everybody else.
Number 2, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I still don't know what quite to make out of that top 4 because I mean you got to give some benefit of the doubt to Georgia and Michigan for the talent they have, for what they did last year and what they carry over into this year, and what we've seen from them on a year in year out basis. But then I've also seen teams like Ohio State beat up on a top 10 team in Notre Dame, and Kyle McCord's gotten better every week. And then Texas went to Tuscaloosa and took care of business. Now they've had a few weird games where it was close, like in the second half with Kansas and Wyoming. But then, they turn on the Jets, they put on their big boy pants and kind of run away with it. And, to box score watchers, it looks a lot more competitive than it is. And that might be the most impressive win on the road. But it's tough to kind of gauge here as far as what I've seen and what I believe, what I'm seeing on paper here.
Yeah, I will say I feel as though you have Washington permanently low, in my opinion. As I've stated before, I think that they are certainly up there for top teams in the nation with just the way that they're playing right now on both sides of the ball, all 3 phases, if you will. I mean, Washington State's still doing their thing. I think that Notre Dame win is big. That's why I put them back up in the top 10. That's a big bounce back game. They had all 11 guys out there, I think, for the whole game. I guess I didn't watch, but so that's an improvement from last week against Ohio State.
Yeah, for me, those 3 teams right there, as far as Penn State, Oregon, and Washington, those feel real interchangeable.
Yeah.
I really like what Penn State's done. I really like, Oregon's performance last week, and it doesn't seem like they've shown many faults outside of that game in Lubbock in week 2. Washington kind of struggled with Arizona a little bit there. Michael Penix Jr. only had 378 pass yards. Couldn't even get to that 400-yard mark that he's gotten to every single week this year. But I wouldn't have any issue moving those guys around interchangeably. Obviously, this week Oregon and Washington will tell us
that is going to be an insane game.
I mean, what an outstanding slate! I mean, that might be the game of the year.
And of course, I'm going to be at a damn wedding.
Oh my gosh, what a disaster!
Yeah.
What? I mean, you got it. I mean, you're sneaking an AirPod there.
Like those old guys at the game, those big ass headphones on.
Yeah, I'd love to just still see that around. I haven't seen that at a college football game.
They were all over us on Saturday. They were just headphones on, listening to the radio. It was great.
I mean, it's kind of the best experience there. You get I guess you don't get to absorb the crowd as much when we have the headphones on, but that's a good way to do it. And I remember working at AM 590. We would have we had two different feeds going on. One was like the instant over the air feed that those guys are listening to there. Then we also had like one on like a 42-second delay on Z92, so you can sync it up with your TV through Cox Cable. Obviously wasn't perfect because different providers have different delays, but that was kind of the thought process there. But yeah, Wild World, and that's not a bad way to listen to a football game. I have not seen that at another college football stadium. Now that I'm thinking about it,
yeah, there's probably not a whole lot of old folk that run around with their headphones on anymore. But
that's another good point. Now that I'm thinking about the last few college football games I've been to, the crowd is way older.
Yeah,
like I was thinking, like in my time at the TCU game, those TCU fans are the best looking college football fans I've ever seen in my life. And Nebraska is definitely the oldest college fans I've ever seen. That's a good point. But one last thing that I put together here, now that we're starting to kind of get into, now that we're in the college football slate, I put together this graphic here. This was what our college football playoff would be like. So we got Georgia, Texas, Washington, and Michigan there, all fighting for the Cornhusker Connection Cup there in the middle. Shout out AI for putting that bad boy together.
I love that Final Four, by the way.
Yeah, I mean,
that would be so fun to watch.
I think so too, especially because it is a year where it feels like Texas is up and maybe Georgia's down a peg from where they've been. Michigan and Washington, just that stout Michigan defense and that grinded out offense versus Michael Penix and the show they have going on.
Air Force. So cool.
I mean, that's tough to pass up. And you can kind of swap these out. Swap Michigan out for Ohio State. That's awesome. Swap Washington out for Oregon. It feels like the last couple of years there's been like a team that gets in there, or a couple of teams where it's like, man, they're just not up to the level. Like last year, Michigan got in. They couldn't even beat TCU. Yeah. That was disappointing to see them get in, but I get it. You have a team like Cincinnati a couple of years ago who just couldn't quite compete with Alabama. But this year, it feels like, it probably goes 6-7 deep as far as teams that you can throw in there.
Yeah.
And just get an outstanding time.
That's why I wish this year was the year that the 12-team playoff took effect, because, wow, would that be fun? Because there are so many great teams that you could put in there right now. And yeah, it's early. We're finally starting to get into the thick of a lot of people's schedules. But also to note on this Final Four right here, two fantastic color match games. Like the burnt orange versus the red and black, and the all purples versus, the blue, white, and gold.
It's really a wide spectrum.
Yeah, it would be incredible to watch those two teams, or four teams rather, fight it out.
And I'm glad that you mentioned the 12-team playoff, because I also put together that graphic.
Oh, hell yeah.
So, of course, those four teams get the first round on stage to the higher seeds. So Ohio State, Fresno State's in there. We'll see how that goes. Florida State, Oregon also hosting, Penn State, Washington State, Ohio State, USC, and Notre Dame also getting in there as well. And this is just according to our rankings. Mm-hmm. So, outstanding stuff. This would be electric. Oregon, Penn State, what a showdown that.
Dude, that would be an incredible game. Those top two quarterfinal games would be insane. I'd like to think Washington State is good enough to beat Florida State, but it's sometimes
the Cougars.
I know, and I love Washington State. I love them. Sometimes in those big games against those big programs, teams just do not match up very well. And I don't know, Fresno State is definitely the black sheep in this whole scenario.
Yeah, Fresno State hosting a college football playoff game is crazy, but I love it. That's kind of the bright spot. That's what we love so much about March Madness, is the underdog getting some momentum and making a run.
Yeah.
Kind of opening up that spot for Fresno State or Tulane, or it's funny because now that SMU is going to the ACC, they're going to have a less likely chance of making a playoff.
Yeah.
As a power team, so that's funny to me, but. Lots of good teams that have come out of the group of five over the last couple of years. Of course, Boise State had their run. but just an outstanding slate. And I do wish that this was the year that we could get on board with it. But nonetheless, still a great slate of college football going on this week. We'll kind of break that down here later on in the week on Cornhusker Connection. Also got Bookie Brook and the boys. We had a week. We had a week. The final numbers are still getting calculated. Not a very good week by any means, but it was in fact a week. But lots of good stuff coming up here. Daily football content here on the Cornhusker Connection Network. Any final thoughts here about the last week and kind of where we're sitting at here today?
I think Nebraska's on the right track. I think we are. Well, we're obviously going through a rebuild right now. Not just players, but culturally, the team is rebuilding itself from the inside out. It takes time. We've gotten better every week, I feel like. I mean, it's hard to see that in this last game because it was so one-sided. But again, just the lack of 75-yard plays that we let up, or just doing whatever they wanted whenever they wanted super easily. I feel like it's changed a little bit, so that gives me a lot of hope. But it's going to take some time. I believe in this process here. And go Jeff Sims.
All right. Well, I mean, I was on board with it all the way up until the very end. But I do think it's important to kind of take a step back, because I got caught in this stream. Either I'm seeing what Coach Prime is doing in Colorado. Like, he can do that in 1 year, and we can't even.
You are so diehard of that way.
I mean,
you see something. You see a lot of people saying something, and you're like, yeah, fuck that.
Well, because I'm seeing like the gap from going to the worst college football team in America.
Yeah.
So it's just even a middle of the road 6-7 win team. It's insane, and that to think that Nebraska can't even go from. Did we get 4 wins last year?
I think we had 3.
Yeah, three wins to 6 wins.
Yeah.
I mean, that's. But then also, like I said, you got to take a step back.
The entire roster turned over for Colorado,
And that's the thing.
He added like a handful of players.
And just because his way is working doesn't mean that our way isn't
Right.
going to work.
Correct.
And I believe in the process. I think I do think that there's a lot of confusion between people who are just disappointed with how things are going and people who think that this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
I think that's crazy to kind of jump on that board, and just a depressing way to be. I mean, how bad would it? Because I did kind of feel this way with Mike Riley. As soon as he got there, I'm like, it's not going to work, and it was a miserable way to be.
Yeah.
It's so much better to even be a little bit more delusional. Yeah, why can't we beat Michigan if we do all these 18 things right? But it's a bad way to be. I'm not going to be it. I think good things are on the road. It is kind of disappointing that the Big Ten West format's coming to an end, and we haven't been able to kind of take advantage of that. I had that
This
thought
year
the
would
other night.
be certainly the year to do that. I don't know. Again, there's still a chance. I mean, granted, it's going to be – you would have to have a lot of good things happen for Nebraska and a lot of bad things happen for other teams.
Like a starting quarterback
still-
going out with the season-ending
yes.
injury.
There's still a chance for us to win that Big Ten West, albeit very delusional for thinking that, but there's still a chance.
Are we, though? The Big Ten West is bad.
But we're also bad. That's the thing.
But, I mean, if we get a game up on Illinois this week, I mean, that's another team that's kind of in the shit storm.
It's going to come down to Wisconsin.
But if we go, we'll talk about this later this week. There is a path, which is
there is a path,
insane that there's still a viable path to it.
And I think I need you to hold my hand and walk me through that path, just so I can see exactly what we need to do.
You know what? That's exactly what we'll do later on this week. We'll kind of walk through the
path of delusion.
Absolutely. But I think that'll do it from us here today at Cornhusker Connection. Daily college football content on every app on your phone at this point. We got TikTok, Instagram, Gas, YouTube, Twitter. We're everywhere. So just type in Cornhusker Connection. You'll find our beautiful ones.